Hey, how's it going, guys? DJ Av here. Smash that like button because we're going to be talking about mixing and mastering again as I do a series and just basic steps that'll lead you to a better mix in FL Studio 12, which is the version that's in front of us.
Traptendo.
So I have a track pulled up, and it is the track from the Studio Link Infinite Player Review video. So I'm going to go ahead and play that track for those who haven't heard it. And we're going to start from here. Let me reset here. So I'm turning down the master volume here so that you can hear me. But I want you to bring your attention to this area right here because this area is very important to when you are leveling your mixes and stuff like that, because it is an oscilloscope, and what it does is it tells you where your basic waveform or your harmonics are sitting at the apparent time here. So this right here is the pad that's playing right now, and the pad is pretty big. And that is kind of the purpose of a pad in general, is for it to take up a lot of harmonic content in the middle of your mix. Now, give or take, when you, whatever VST that you're using or whatever source that you are recording into FL Studio, affects the overall quality of that. So leveling will be quite different for that, as this is more or less of your expression as a engineer, that you use your better judgment. But my tip is to keep things at even levels, just for the fact that, when it comes to your melodic tones, so that when you introduce certain things like the kick, which is hitting at 0, and with the help of Maximus, I have it's a bit louder than it would appear and bigger. But at the same time, and for those who want this Maximus preset, go to my big kicks tutorial, and there should be a link for that. So check out my older playlist for this. But anyways, back to what I'm saying. As you can see, the kick is cutting through, and I'm going to go ahead and reset. So the overall approach of your track when you're leveling is that you use your better judgment for your musical progression here. It is a very musical instrumental that's playing right now, this track that I did. So I wanted to keep it musical, but I wanted the edge and the punchiness. So I wanted you, for this, I aimed for the kick to be the punch. But in other aspects, I wanted things like the harp to be on the same level. As you can see, the relationship within this track that is being played is that everything is pretty much even, except for the bass. And we're going to talk about the bass in general and why the bass is sitting a little lower than the harp and whatever this is right here. Check that out. The bell. So, what happens if I actually push this harp up? And I'm going to go ahead and reset now. As you can see, when you turn up the track here, and I set the master at 0, the harp was distorted. And as you can see, that's the importance of leveling your mix, is because when you go and do something in your master bus, which I don't have Maximus on right now, But you know, if I was to go and I was working with my master bus and was to add more gain to the finished product or makeup gain, distortion would be induced, and I don't want that distortion to be there. So that's one of the main reasons why you want to keep certain things level. Now here's the catch-22 here. As you know, you want to keep in mind, you want to look at this right here, and I'm going to go ahead and play. I'm going to reset the master volume again. As you can see, the kick is the only thing that I want to have some type of saturation to it and punch. So, I want the melody to be smooth because this is a smooth type track. If I was to go in Pacific and say like a certain genre, it would be like R&B, I guess. But, so I'm going to go ahead and add the bell. Now, right now, I'm just looking at this area right here because if you select a certain track within FL Studio 12, again, one of the advantages that is visual heavy when it comes to being able to check out the details of your mix. So, as you can see, all the melodies they're hitting under 0. The kick itself, I think, pushes it to 3. Now, what if I was to go ahead and add this snare? As you can see, the snare and the kick have a direct relationship as far as the leveling, as well as in this snare, which may be a little bit too loud, especially once it's being compressed by YouTube. Take some of that edge off that. Now let's check the master volume again. Now I'm going to go ahead and introduce the bass. Now, certain people have different tastes when it comes to their bass, when it comes to their leveling and stuff like that, because bass, people might want their bass to be the most dominant part of their beat. My personal preference when it comes to leveling is that you want your bass to be kind of tucked a tad bit under your melody as far as leveling goes. I'm going to go ahead and play that pad. And now I'm going to raise the master volume back up. I'm going to reset it. And now I'm going to add the kick in there. Now, there are certain things that I could adjust in this track in general right now, and one of the things I've noticed is that this sound has certain peaks that it raises up in particular areas, and that's because of the fact that the way I express the keys on the keyboard when I was playing it. Now, I can just adjust this a little bit because I can hear a little bit of distortion. Again, none of this stuff is being processed, other than the fact that it'd be processed on YouTube. And I do recommend, it might be a little bit too late now, that you actually listen to this in headphones or on studio monitors. Now we're gonna introduce the kick in this 808 again. and we're gonna raise the volume back up or reset it. And now you hear a subtle difference in the mixing in general, because the fact that I identified that there was a bit of distortion or a bit of phase distortion with the pad and the kick, that now it has disappeared. It's disappeared. Now I want to add other elements to this track, and then we'll reset the master volume to 0. Now, I just wanted to introduce this part right here because, again, with the leveling and stuff that we're talking about and using the oscilloscope to identify the different things that will fluctuate and hurt the track, is one thing right here. I have 2 different basses. I have an 808 and just like a regular sine wave bass. Now watch what happens when I introduce both of them together. You'll hear a phase cancellation, what people call muddy. As you can hear, there was a little bit of clashing here, and that can be fixed, obviously, by not having the bass that is the regular sine wave bass with the 808 itself, which is a sine wave, but never mind. But yeah, but because there are like frequency content, they both have a like frequency content, even though they're played at different pitches in certain cases, they will align themselves and cancel each other out, causing that what quote unquote arbitrary term muddiness. So just give one its individual space and then the other individual space, which helps with the arrangement of the track and doesn't hurt the leveling. Because it's basically all about just having dynamic range to your track before you even process it. So that's one of the key things about leveling. And I'm gonna turn on these parts right here. These parts right here are the voxes, and we're gonna observe the oscilloscope again for this part. I can see they have their own individual cut. They're kind of tucked under the melody, and it's because the mission of this track and mixing it was to complement the track in general and not to overtake any of the harmonies that have set. Now let's talk about percussion in general. I even add the voxes in there. Again, percussion and stuff like that they all have a relationship with each other. Obviously, I didn't want certain hits in percussion to overtake the snare, but I do want the cut like over the overall melody itself, because you know that is the movement, that's the rhythm. And leveling that, you have to keep in mind that you know you want what you want, and you can visually see that, and it's a blessing that you can, but you also can hear it. Let's go ahead and reset the master again. I'm gonna go ahead and add the body back to the track, the bass. So you basically already have a clean mix right then and there, and you don't have to worry about doing too much when it comes to the compression, you know, other than, you know, giving certain things, which we'll talk about in another video. So that's basically about it. Hopefully this video will really help you on your journey in terms of mixing and mastering, because leveling is a quite important thing to getting, you know, the right mix, so that when you go to the mastering part and mastering like everything together, like the whole entire thing, and we're going to talk about mastering in terms of, you know, how it's done by the big wigs, and you know how I approach mastering as well for individual tracks or beats. But yeah, if you like this video, give it a like. If you have any questions or requests, definitely if you have any requests about mixing and stuff like that, let me know. I'm gonna cover EQing next, so hopefully you guys enjoyed this. I'm DJ McCree, and I hope you have a good day.
Traptendo.